My fiancé said, "My parents don't approve of you. They think I can do better." I replied, "Then you should." That night, I transferred the lease to her name, canceled her credit card, and moved out while she slept. 1 week later, her whole family was at my doorstep begging me to take her back. The funny thing about having your heart ripped out is how calm you can be when it happens. No screaming, no crying, just this weird, icy clarity that takes over. I'd been with Natalie for 3 years, met her right after college at a friend's housewarming party. She was smart, beautiful, ambitious, everything I wanted. We moved in together after a year, got engaged after 2, and were planning the wedding when everything fell apart. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Natalie's parents, Richard and Caroline, were never exactly warm to me. They were the country club type. Old money, private schools, vacation homes in the Hamptons. I came from a middle-class family in Ohio, put myself through state college with loans and part-time jobs, and was still building my career as an architect at a decent but not prestigious firm. When I'd meet them for dinner, they'd ask pointed questions about my career trajectory and whether my firm worked on any notable projects. Caroline would reminisce about Natalie's ex, who was now at some hedge fund in New York. Richard would talk about friends' sons who were doctors or executives. I always brushed it off. Plenty of people have difficult in-laws, right? And Natalie would always squeeze my hand under the table, roll her eyes when her parents weren't looking. I thought we were on the same team. The day everything changed was nothing special. A Thursday in April. I came home from work tired after a long client meeting. Natalie was sitting at our kitchen island staring at her laptop. "Hey," I said, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. "How was your day?" She didn't answer right away, which was unusual. Natalie was always talking about work, friends, something she saw on Instagram. The silence was my first clue something was wrong. "I had lunch with my parents," she finally said, still not looking up from her laptop. "How are Richard and Caroline?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light as I opened the fridge to grab a beer. "They're concerned about us." I paused, bottle halfway to my lips. "Concerned how?" "About the wedding." "About," she hesitated, finally looking up at me, "about whether you're the right choice for me." I set the beer down untouched. "And what do you think?" "I think they want what's best for me." "That's not what I asked." She sighed, closing her laptop. "They pointed out some things I hadn't really thought about, like how your career doesn't have the same potential as someone in finance or medicine, how we'll never be able to afford the kind of life I grew up with, how we come from really different worlds." "We've known all that from day one," I said, my voice still oddly calm. "It never seemed to bother you before." "It didn't, but thinking about the future, about kids someday, I don't know." They made some good points. "Such as?" "Like how you're so content where you are. You've never talked about making partner or starting your own firm. You're just comfortable being average." That stung. I'd never claimed to be exceptional, but I worked hard and took pride in my designs. I wasn't changing the world, but I was building a solid career doing something I loved. "What exactly are you saying, Natalie?" She twisted her engagement ring, the one that had cost me 3 months' salary, but that her mother had called quaint when she first saw it. "My parents don't approve of you," she said finally. "They think I can do better." The room seemed to tilt slightly, like a ship adjusting to a wave. 3 years together, a year of engagement, countless I love yous and future plans, and it came down to her parents' approval. "And what do you think?" I asked again, my voice very quiet now. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I think maybe they have a point. In movies, this would be where I'd plead with her, remind her of our love, promise to become worthy of her family's approval. But that icy clarity I mentioned, it kicked in hard." "Then you should," I said simply. "Should what?" "Do better, if that's what you and your parents think." She looked startled, like she'd expected an argument or tears. "Ryan, I'm not saying it's over. I'm just having doubts. Doubts about whether I'm good enough for you, because your parents said so." "It's more complicated than that." "Is it?" "Sounds pretty simple to me." I walked past her to our bedroom, her confused expression following me. I took a shower, letting the hot water wash over me as I thought through what needed to happen next. By the time I got out, I had a plan. Natalie was in bed when I came out of the bathroom, scrolling through her phone like it was any normal night. She glanced up at me. "Can we talk more about this tomorrow? I'm tired, and I think we both need to sleep on it." "Sure." I agreed easily, climbing into bed beside her. "Tomorrow." I waited until her breathing slowed and deepened around midnight. Then I got up silently, grabbed my pre-packed gym bag from the closet, and went to work. First, I logged into our apartment's tenant portal. The lease was in my name, with Natalie as an occupant. We'd set it up that way because my credit was better when we moved in. I submitted a lease modification request to the landlord, explaining that I wanted to remove myself and transfer full responsibility to Natalie. I knew this would require her signature and landlord approval before being finalized, but initiating the process would make my intentions clear. Our landlord, Mr. Peterson, was reasonable and had always liked me. I was confident he'd work with Natalie on the transition if she chose to stay. Next, I logged into my bank account. Natalie had a credit card on my account as an authorized user. We kept our finances mostly separate, but this card was for household expenses. I removed her as an authorized user and requested a new card for myself. I also made a list of all the utilities and services in my name: electricity, internet, streaming accounts that I'd need to either transfer or cancel after giving her proper notice. I wrote a brief note explaining that I was leaving, that I'd initiated the lease transfer process, and that I'd send for the rest of my things later. I included that she had a month to figure out if she wanted to take over the apartment or find a new place, and that I'd handle the utilities in the meantime to give her time to transfer them to her name. I left the note on the kitchen counter along with my key. Then I walked out the door. I'd called my buddy Mark earlier that evening while Natalie was in the shower, asking if I could crash at his place for a few days. He'd agreed without questions, the sign of a true friend. When I arrived at Mark's apartment at 1 a.m., he opened the door in his boxers, looking sleepy but concerned. "You okay, man?" "Not really," I said honestly, "but I will be." Over beers on his couch, I explained the situation. Mark, to his credit, didn't try to convince me to go back or work things out. "Her loss," he said simply, clinking his bottle against mine. "You can stay as long as you need." The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, and voicemails from Natalie, all increasingly frantic. "Where are you? Call me back right now. I can't believe you just left like that. The landlord called about a lease transfer. I can't afford this place alone on my salary. You canceled the credit card. How am I supposed to pay for groceries?" That last text was particularly rich. Despite her family's wealth, Natalie insisted on being financially independent, which in reality meant living within the modest salary from her entry-level publishing job, while her parents covered her student loans, car payments, and funded a generous emergency account she rarely touched. It was a point of pride for her, but one that now left her unprepared for actual independence. I didn't respond to any of her messages. Instead, I called my boss and explained I needed a few personal days. Then I spent the next week apartment hunting, eventually securing a small but decent one-bedroom across town that I could move into the following week. The rent was higher than my share at the old place, but I could manage with my recent project bonuses. Over the next few days, I methodically rebuilt my life. I stayed at Mark's apartment, sleeping on his couch and slowly gathering essentials for my new place. I updated my address everywhere, since I still legally had access to our old apartment until the lease situation was resolved. I arranged for a moving company to collect my furniture and larger belongings on a day I knew Natalie would be at work. Mark agreed to meet them there with the spare key I still had, supervising to ensure they only took my pre-agreed items. I also ordered the basics I would need immediately for the new apartment: bedding, kitchenware, toiletries, and had them delivered to Mark's place. By the time my new apartment was ready the following week, I had a plan for a smooth transition. Natalie's messages continued, evolving from angry to pleading. "Please talk to me. We can work this out." I didn't mean what I said. I was just stressed about wedding planning. My parents were wrong. I know that now. I finally responded on day 5 with a single text. "I'll be collecting the rest of my things next week. The utilities are paid through the end of the month, giving you time to put them in your name if you're staying. Please let me know a time when you won't be home so I can finish moving out." Her reply was immediate. Please don't do this. I love you. Too little, too late. On day 6, I got a surprising call from Richard, Natalie's father. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Ryan, he said, his usual haughty tone replaced by something almost humble. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss, Richard. Please. Natalie she's not doing well. That's unfortunate, but not my problem anymore. Look, he sighed heavily, I may have overstepped, said some things I shouldn't have. You think? Can we meet? Caroline and I would like to speak with you in person. Against my better judgment, I agreed to coffee the next day. Pure curiosity, I told myself. Nothing more. When I arrived at the cafe, I was shocked to find not just Richard and Caroline, but Natalie and her younger brother too. The whole family ensemble. What's this? I asked, remaining standing at their table. Please, sit, Caroline said, her usual perfectly composed face showing signs of strain. We want to talk to you. I sat reluctantly, as far from Natalie as possible. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her normally immaculate appearance disheveled. Richard cleared his throat. Ryan, I owe you an apology. What I said to Natalie about you was unfair and short-sighted. You think? I repeated. Yes, he continued. The past week has made it abundantly clear that you were far better for Natalie than we gave you credit for. How so? Caroline jumped in. Natalie has been absolutely devastated. We've never seen her like this. Not eating, not sleeping. She truly loves you. I looked at Natalie, who was staring down at the table, tears silently tracking down her cheeks. And it turns out, Richard continued, looking uncomfortable, that Natalie was also not entirely forthcoming with us about your career. Her brother looked you up. I'm a big architecture nerd, her brother interjected. When I actually Googled your name, I found your portfolio. You worked on the Westbrook Tower? That's incredible. And you're listed as lead designer on the new Riverside development? Dude, that's major. I shrugged. I've been doing well at the firm. Why didn't you tell us? Caroline asked. Because it shouldn't matter, I replied simply. I'm an architect because I love design, not to impress my fiancée's parents. Richard had the grace to look ashamed. We were wrong about you, and wrong to put those doubts in Natalie's head. You didn't put anything in her head she didn't allow, I countered. She's an adult who made her choice. I made the wrong choice, Natalie finally spoke, her voice hoarse. I was stupid and insecure and let them get to me. I've regretted it every second since you left. We're here, Richard said, to ask you to reconsider, to give Natalie another chance. I looked at them all, this family that had judged me, found me wanting, and was now desperately trying to backpedal. Why the change of heart, Richard? Because it turns out I might be successful after all? No, he said, though his eyes shifted away briefly. Because I've never seen my daughter this heartbroken. Whatever you think of me, I do love her. The truth was, I had never really talked about my career achievements with Natalie or her family. Not out of secrecy, but because I didn't define myself by my work successes. The Riverside development had been a breakthrough project that I'd been pulling long hours on for months, often coming home too tired to discuss the details. Natalie had always seemed more interested in talking about her publishing world anyway. And I'd been content to listen rather than boast about my own progress. Please, Ryan, Natalie reached across the table for my hand. I pulled back before she could touch me. I was wrong, so wrong. I love you, not what you do or what you earn. But you didn't defend me, I said quietly. When they said I wasn't good enough, you agreed. I was confused, stressed about the wedding, having cold feet. It wasn't about you, it was about me being scared. And now you're scared of paying rent on your own? She flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You didn't contact me until you realized I'd transferred the lease and canceled your card. The practical issues just made me realize how much I depend on you, she argued. How much I need you. I don't want to be needed, I want to be chosen. I stood up, and you chose your parents' approval over me. Ryan, Caroline interjected. People make mistakes. Natalie made a mistake. We made a mistake. Surely that deserves forgiveness? I looked at them all, this family unit closing ranks to fix the problem they'd created, and I felt nothing. That icy clarity was still there, protecting me. I wish you all the best, I said, turning to leave. Wait, Natalie stood up, drawing glances from other cafe patrons. I'll do anything. I'll move into your new place. I'll pay my own way. I'll cut off my parents if that's what it takes. Her parents looked alarmed at this suggestion, which told me everything I needed to know about how genuine their change of heart was. It's not about any of that, I told her. It's about the fact that you showed me who you really are. Someone who values status and other people's opinions over loyalty and love. I believe you now. I walked out, ignoring her calls behind me. That was 6 months ago. I haven't spoken to Natalie since, though she still texts occasionally. Her parents sent me an expensive bottle of scotch with a note of apology, which I donated to Mark's birthday party. The Riverside development I designed opened last month to positive reviews. My firm made me a junior partner as a result, with a healthy raise. I bought a condo in the building, small, but mine. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I remember how easily she wavered, how quickly she accepted her parents' assessment of my worth. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The right person won't need to be convinced that you're enough. They'll know it, and they'll defend that knowledge against anyone, even their own family. I'm still looking for that person, but at least now I know what I'm looking for. And what I'm not willing to accept.